A while ago, I made a short detailing the 3 major things I wanted to see out of Kingdom Hearts 4. I don't think we'll get any of them, to be honest. The brief glimpses of KH4 we've gotten don't exactly point to them, but I think they're pretty reasonable requests. All I want is for Naminé to get a Keyblade, Kairi to do literally anything, and Xion to get a default Keyblade that is at least mostly unique to her. Don't get me wrong, there are good reasons for her use of the Kingdom Key, we'll get to them, but at this point she deserves something new. Roxas is in a very similar situation, and he's been able to do unique things with his Keyblade since his very first appearance. On the other hand, it took until the post-credit scene of Kingdom Hearts 3 for Xion to finally wear something other than an organization robe. She's more than past due for a Keyblade she can call her own. Before we get to the sword itself though, who even is Xion, and why does she have the Kingdom Key? Isn't that supposed to be Sora's Keyblade? Well, yes. She uses Sora's because, like much of the cast, they are kind of the same person. Xion is only a major character in one Kingdom Hearts game, 358 over 2 days. She was created for it, and her only other proper appearance is as a minor character in the back half of Kingdom Hearts 3. In Days, Xion is counted among the nobodies because she fits the definition, but she's actually an early form of replica. In their perfected KH3 form, replicas are essentially empty vessels, artificial bodies that don't have hearts but aren't sentient nobodies. They are the mechanism that Xehanort uses to bring his 13 darknesses, half of whom are versions of him, to one place in time. Vexen invented the replicas, and his first mostly successful attempt was made using Sora's memories of Kairi. This method didn't make a proper replica, but it did make a girl who has access to a Keyblade, aka Xion. Her name is a nobodification of No I, the designation she had as Vexen's experiment. Unfortunately for her, Days takes place at the same time Sora is getting his mind restored after changing memories. Because Xion is made from Sora's memories, she's increasingly turned into him as they're returned, until she finishes her transformation and dies fighting Roxas. Once that happens, everyone forgets about her. She's made of someone else's memories, so once those go back to where they belong, there's nothing left to remember. If that sounds convoluted, it's because 358 over 2 days is a prequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, where Xion is never mentioned. Square needed another main character to carry Days' plot, but they had to come up with an excuse for why she doesn't appear in the mainline game, and this is what they came up with. Like I mentioned, Xion does return in Kingdom Hearts 3. While Vexen was making the new and improved replicas, he found her old file, and the new organization brought her back to fill out their 13 darknesses. Regardless, since replicas are vessels with no hearts, and Xion is one made from Sora's memories, she's essentially a second Roxas. They are both, in most of the ways that matter, Sora's nobodies, so when they use Keyblades, they get a copy of his Kingdom Key. Roxas is important enough that he eventually gets to dual-wield Oathkeeper and Oblivion, but even in her latest appearance, Xion is still stuck with the default Keyblade. Now that we've covered her history though, let's go over 2 potential replacements. First off, Xion could just use Oblivion. It's already kind of hers. 358 over 2 days is principally a Roxas spin-off. It's the story of his time in the organization. You see, Roxas is alive for exactly 1 year, and you play through the last 6.5 days at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. This covers the other 358.5, hence the name. Because Days is all about Roxas, it sets out to explain some of his quirks, like why he can dual-wield Keyblades. It turns out, the second one isn't just there because he's built different, it's actually Xion's. Like I said, Xion dies after a big long boss fight at the very end of Days, but she's not technically the final boss. Roxas uses one Keyblade against her, then she dies, and in the next mission, the final one, is the only time in the entire game where he dual wields. He does it for a little while in the castle that never was, until Riku shows up to knock him out and put him in Data Twilight Town for Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm not sure why they didn't put the actual transfer on screen, it might have just been too much for a 2009 DS game, but the sequence of events is pretty clear. Roxas kills Xion, takes up her Keyblade alongside his own, and attempts to free Kingdom Hearts with them. In fact, when Roxas starts dual-wielding, he initially summons 2 Kingdom Keys before transforming them. If we're giving Xion a replacement for the Kingdom Key then, why not make it her original Keyblade? I know what you're thinking though, why specifically Oblivion? Roxas obviously dual-wields 2 Keyblades, so why can't Xion have Oathkeeper? Well, believe it or not, the color scheme has nothing to do with this. There's a good chance that Xion's Kingdom Key became Oblivion because Roxas's is almost certainly Oathkeeper. First off, in the final boss fight, Roxas uses Oathkeeper no matter what. He dual wields for the first part of the level, but when Riku shows up, he steals Oblivion, so you do the actual boss fight with the other. Obviously, that's not concrete proof that he uses Oathkeeper. If you're going to give Riku one of these swords, it's certainly the black one with the bat wings, but it helps to reinforce something from the day's manga. In that version of the canon, there's a couple of changes to the Xion fight. Here, this is the first time Roxas uses something other than the Kingdom Key, and it's Oathkeeper. The manga doesn't deal with any of 358's original Keyblades. Roxas can't swap them out like he can in the game, implying Oathkeeper is specifically his since he uses it in this cutscene. It's only once he starts dual wielding, aka using Xion's old Keyblade, that he gets access to Oblivion. Furthermore, Riku's actions once he shows up pretty heavily imply which one is Xion's. When he catches Oblivion after jumping off a building, he's struck with all of his memories of her, obviously implying which one is specifically connected to her. After this point, she even starts sending him telepathic messages, presumably through Oblivion. Going by this, Xion doesn't even need a totally original Keyblade. Roxas could just give her her sword back. He can keep dual wielding without it too, just replace it with his other main Keyblade to become one. Honestly though, as much sense as Oblivion would make, it feels like a bit of a cop-out to make that Xion's main Keyblade. It's not as generic as the Kingdom Key, but Oblivion is hardly a unique weapon. Obviously it's Roxas's, but in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 it's more Sora's, and even Riku uses it occasionally. Hell, before the nobodies were a thought in anyone's mind, Oathkeeper and Oblivion were originally representative of Sora's care for Kairi and Riku. I think it would be kind of lame to give Xion a pre-existing Keyblade, especially one that's so associated with 3 other characters. Luckily, it's not hard to find concepts for an original option, all we have to do is look at her boss fight. Armored Xion has 4 whole forms, most of whom carry swords that are almost, but not quite, Keyblades. There's a thick orange broadsword in Wonderland, a long gnarled situation in Halloween Town, and 4 massive scimitars in Agrabah, but I'm most interested in her final form. There, she dual wields 2 identical swords that seem to be at least partial riffs on the Kingdom Key, since this whole boss fight is Xion at her most Sora. Regardless, these swords are just missing teeth and keychains. They're no more than a quick and dirty Photoshop job away from Keybladedom. In fact... Okay, I'm not incredible at image editing, and it's hard to find high quality PNGs of Xion's blades, but say hello to Never Forget. I took the name from her final cutscene. It's the last thing she says before dying in Roxas's arms. I was also floating names like Promised Remembrance or Why the Sun Sets Red, but this felt the most appropriate. As for the Keyblade itself, I took her final form's blade and added bits of Oblivion, since as we've discussed, it's already kind of her Keyblade. It comes through most obviously in the teeth, but the gem and chain are also taken, and the handle is color picked from it. Speaking of color picking, the gem's tones are taken from sea salt ice cream. I think the treat deserves to be included, but putting it straight in would mess with Never Forget's tone. Originally, I took the keychain itself from her armored form's mask, but I ended up swapping it to a seashell. They're so heavily associated with Xion that I couldn't not include one somewhere. This one is specifically the seashell that's left behind when she dies in the intro of Kingdom Hearts 3. One of these days I might commission an artist to make a Keyblade for Xion completely from scratch, but in the meantime, Never Forget fits the bill pretty well. It's not quite unique, but it is a synthesis of the 2 closest things she has to an original Keyblade. People tend to draw on Destiny's Embrace and the color blue a lot when making their versions, but I've never liked that direction. Xion isn't really associated with Kairi, at least not more so than Sora, Roxas, or Axel, and her main colors after black have always been red, gold, and white. Xion is one of Kingdom Hearts' nicher characters, but she's also one of the most unique and compelling. She deserves to use things that aren't hand-me-downs. We got an original dress at the end of Remind, now it's time for a Keyblade to match.